What's that? There's staff with them. I did hit someone's house today. Yeah, we on Saturday. I'm collecting a couple. Yeah. My top golf out.
Yeah.
That's right. Once we work through this and get these approved, then I'll work with print services to wrap up it's page 69 in the agreement, but this document doesn't have this whole calendar up to the side, but they'll add that on later. So I anticipate probably we'll kind of go through these, give you time to review them, and then approve them, potentially approve them next Monday when we meet again. Next one, I hope you brought your magnifying glass. I think really it's the professional development calendar, or it's titled Professional Learning and Preparation Days. I think as it's being distributed, it's like 11 by 17 now, because it was 3 pages. And now it's miraculously on 2 pages, but in very tiny font. So in working through, Jenna Cooter worked through calendar committee, got a lot of feedback as this was developed. My recollection is there's a little more shift from building professional development to more district professional development for next year. But educator prep has remained the same within, similar to past years. And then she's going to work with admin to get their plans in this summer to kind of drive like a long range plan for those through the year for building.
For building focus or people directed, but working with admin.
It's for the whole
For the whole
document.
thing, okay.
Mhm. Obviously, the district direction will come from that, but then the buildings will develop their both their building focus and their building focus job embedded day, which I think is one of the half days.
Gotcha.
The last one is the grading reporting dates document. I think there's still some formatting issues on here, but services will get that cleaned up. I think the last question I had for calendar committee on this was in relation to May 23rd and May 28th. We still had some elementary buildings that are printing grade cards. We wanted them to have the flexibility to do that, but they for them to be accessed and ready for parents in parent view. It's actually that next Tuesday. So we did some revision on there too, so that everyone's final grade cards are posted on that Tuesday.
Changes on that 3 and 4 based on the time difference.
There were not, but that's something that we could take into consideration with the different contract times now.
You know, a difference with middle school. Sometimes you think about the end of the day.
Yeah.
Then looking ahead into 25, 26, we should have the final draft
to you hopefully next week. Draft and communicate one more with that. Roll it out, so hopefully by next Monday, we'll have that draft looked at one more time and ready to bring.
I think as far as like for your question, Jenny, I think the times. I think in the future, we might want to have a discussion at the calendar committee about how do we make those reflect the new. Yeah. We may just need to have some separated lines for middle school and high school so that, because there is a gap. So.
Or maybe just even put it in the numbers taken to student day, then you're gonna have to update it back.
True.
On the high school level, am I reading right that next year we have one more day there at the end with K through 11 that is no seniors compared to this year? Because it looks like Thursday is again the last day for seniors like it is this year, but then the finals run through Thursday the following week rather than Wednesday.
Stop from there.
Let's say for seniors.
The grade reporting.
Okay.
I wonder if it's one of those adjustments because of leap year. Even this year.
Oh.
I'm not sure. 42 days.
Or maybe,
Oh no, we do.
or there may be something that's not quite, I'm not sure.
Lining up.
Yeah.
I'll go back and look at the 24, 25 calendar and make sure those are all aligned. Get that pulled up now, Clint.
Yeah. That is correct. That is 125. On the calendar, the senior's last day is May 15th. And then the last half day for K through 11, 22nd.
So do we know, does that mean that K through 11 is one day more, or the 12 seniors one day less?
We're still done on Friday. They'll still be done on Friday, 17th this year.
It's 46 days this
Yeah.
It's 42 next year.
Spring break was so early this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same number of days for everyone else, so I'm wondering if just maybe someone might double check the math that our seniors are getting.
The correct number of
Yeah.
days. Got it.
Make that little bit of buffer minutes because they're required less also.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll have to check it.
Yeah, and the last time the calendar looked like that, I think seniors' last day was on that Friday, but that was before we had graduation happening. So
Yeah.
that might be what's.
Oh, right. Answers back and get these finalized Monday.
And on this one, on the educator prep box, there's just one place where it talks about parent conferences.
Under educator prep,
Yeah. It's like third bullet, the sub bullet under the third bullet.
oh, got it. I'll work with Jenna. Pulling it up. I don't know if you had any benefits update, or maybe the update is you don't have.
Yeah,
benefits update.
we have been in touch with Lochner Broker, who's working with Blue Cross Blue Shield to find out when we'll have that initial renewal. From them, those rates, and one of our primary person through Blue Cross is on maternity leave, so we're working with somebody who's kind of working as a backup, so they're working to get it by the beginning of May, but she's hoping to get a specific date. next
Okay.
week. So they typically like to have as much time so that they can have all of our, you know, data in terms of usage and claims and all of that fun stuff. So I will circle back as soon as I know more.
You anticipate the benefits committee meeting?
Yeah, I think Eric was waiting to get this date so
Okay.
that he could kind of have an idea of what it would be logical for us to get together and be able to
Got it.
do that. So yeah, most certainly.
All right. High school committee update. Met, when was it, last week,
Last week,
Tuesday?
I think it was Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday was the after school on Zoom.
One of those days, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, seems
Yeah.
like a long time ago. Had a chance to get everybody together and talk through some different items, one of which being kind of talking about a draft schedule, what we might like to see in that. So we plan to bring a draft schedule back to this week's meeting. We're meeting again Wednesday morning this time, right?
Yep.
Wednesday morning, so we'll have a draft schedule to look at. But other than maybe a slight adjustment in AI time, it'll look very similar to what we've had in the past, probably.
Yeah.
That's kind of one minor change that we talked about.
Mhm.
Maybe to add
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked a few years ago now about maybe doing some bigger changes in our schedule, and we decided against that, so we're just talking about maybe minor modifications. And then we just started talking a little bit about what AI looks like at each building. Our committee members, are gonna get more like broader feedback. Because a lot of them came to the meeting with like, here's what I think about AI. So that charged, okay, now collect a little larger data, however you want to do that. And then just talk a little bit about looking for maybe some methods that we could define what AI is for without taking away each building's ability to like tailor it somewhat to what their students need. But the other couple things on the MOU that we haven't had time to talk about would be PLC for singletons. I don't imagine that's going to be something we can accomplish on the agenda for this week. And then there was a fourth thing on the MOU, new educators, time for new educators to meet with coaches. I don't think that is going to fit on our schedule or our meeting agenda for next time.
Remind me, because I need a reminder of what is our high school new contract time, and
7:15 to 3:15.
then student time.
7:40 to 2:40. I want to say 3:40,
I know.
not
Okay.
2:40. Yeah.
Right. I know, whoever can connect the fastest. We do have a proposal to bring back from the elementary plan time subcommittee.
My keys trying.
Oh,
I put an air tag on them. Misplaced them in the sweater
what happened to?
pocket.
Are we air media BOE?
Yes.
Or 2641. Teeny tiny. My work here's done. Well, Shelby and Todd and I have the extreme pleasure of working with some amazing administrators and educators on the elementary plan time committee. We're thankful to get back together over a day and a half period. And just to remind everyone of what this most recent charge was of the committee, it was to get folks back together to bring a proposal back here to the entire council with a recommendation on a rotation schedule that addresses the additional plan time previously negotiated for all elementary certified staff.
We had a pretty diverse makeup in our elementary plan time committee. It was originally formed in 2021 to address kind of getting elementary educators that additional 30 minutes or additional plan time, and it was decided upon 30 minutes. Those are our friends that served on the committee. We have, we tried to represent large schools, small schools, medium, title, ELL, counselors, specialists, classroom teachers. We really tried to get a lot of different voices in that, our SPED staff. So we thank these people for coming together very quickly to get a large amount of work done. But we're also proud of how many different types of educators we got to serve on that committee. So our original kind of criteria that the Elementary Plan Time Committee established a few years ago in order to address equity of plan time, we kind of established these and used these to view through the lens of how we're addressing it with this change in schedule. We wanted to meet the charge set forth by the council. Additional time should be educator driven. Increase in plan time would be equitable for all staff members. If the increase in time creates additional contact time, we want to make sure facilities, were appropriate for everybody, that there was no undue burden on any staff. Educators would have a voice in this decision of time established, and we just kind of keep striving for that elementary equity towards where our secondary friends are sitting.
We did have additional criteria of then, after our first proposal of
No monetary.
no monetary impact, and then we had the busing changes coming in as well, so.
Yeah, we also tried to keep in mind, I guess, the overall impact on our community. So
Yes,
that was another thing that we were
you're right.
trying to keep in mind. So thank you. So proposal that we discussed is that starting in fall 2024, the Elementary Plan Time Committee is recommending that we transition to an A through D rotation for specials. And so that would include music, art, library, and PE. That all kindergarten through fifth grade students would receive 60 minutes of instruction in each special per A through D rotation. And that instruction could be received in one 60-minute block, or in some cases, some buildings have opted to do 2 30-minute blocks, in particular for our kindergartners, 5 and 6 years old. And so sometimes 60-minute blocks aren't always the best for those individuals. And then the 8:15 to 8:45 time could be scheduled as plan time or PLC, one time per typical 5-day week. And so this was something that really got a lot of just discussion in general about how to best frame it, I guess, so to speak, because the intent is to kind of keep what the current agreement has with regard to 30-minute PLC once a week. If we did it as part of an A through D rotation, then there's potential that that would actually occur twice per week. If we had a 5-day week at that time. So that's where we came up with the wording of per typical 5-day week. So we can kind of wordsmith that out a little bit more as far as what we actually put in the negotiated agreement. And then this was just kind of a recommendation or consideration, is for administrators from feeder patterns, sorry, I had lots of parent conversations today. From feeder patterns, collaborate to ensure PLC time for specialists within their content area. And so what that essentially means is, and whether it's through administrators working with their feeder patterns, or if there's a more global way of doing this, is I feel like that there are some opportunities here to get some collaboration with like jobs, the same capacity that maybe we haven't necessarily had before. So for example, if we had specialists have a PLC on one of those 8:15 to 8:45 periods of time, if Green Springs coordinated with Frontier Trail and the other feeder schools, then perhaps they would be able to find a time where they could actually collaborate together with the other music educators, the other art educators. And there haven't been a ton of those opportunities thus far. So that would just be one way of trying to provide that additional opportunity for collaboration between the same capacity. Okay, and then the language in the agreement that's impacted by some of the information that we just went over in the proposal would be GBZCC on a professional day. You probably knew that off the top of your head that that was a GBZCC issue. on page 23. Of course, the elementary scheduling document is what would need most overhaul. And then some information on GBCE and professional development. You can see the pages that are listed over there. So the additional kind of related discussions that we feel like are still needing to get some insights, and whether that's a professional council discussion, whether it's something that district administration needs to vet out. That's kind of what we've been doing thus far is, so part of our last meeting, we broke into the specific kind of job responsibilities. We had classroom teachers and specialists, administrators and counselors, and special education, ELL and title, all kind of got together and talked a little bit about what are some things that if we're transitioning to an A through D rotation for specials, what are just some things that need to be kept in mind? Some considerations that need to be had. And some really good insights came from those discussions. And so what we've been doing, and by we, I mean, I think Shelby did afterwards, is take that feedback. So the three of us talked about that feedback, but then what she's been able to do is kind of say, okay, this is most likely something that would fall under a professional council. This is most likely something that would be kind of a communication to just building principles, and this is most likely something that would be more of a district administration responsibility. And so these are some of the things, this is kind of our next steps, and I think something that we're looking for a little bit of direction on from professional council is to kind of get an idea of the next steps in this process. So you can kind of see just listed up there, some of the things that need to be kind of thought about for scheduling would be things like band, strings, choir, related service providers, and then SIT meetings. And that's not an exhaustive list. There are other things that would need to be included in that as well. And Shelby, what am I forgetting?
There's a lot that we still don't know, a lot of different questions that need to be answered. And, we'll kick it up to this person, or we need to vet out, what are specific language changes that we need to make. But I think agreeing and deciding to propose an A through D schedule is really helping our staff kind of get their heads around a little bit about what the organization of the day will look like tomorrow or next year. And tomorrow, I mean, I don't know if I'm but there's still some key components that we're missing, but we're starting to get there. And we know a lot about this now, so if anybody has questions, we got lots of.
I guess maybe it's worth noting that the highlights, I guess, from our committee work that we did has been sent out. We sent out something very brief as soon as it was finished, and we knew what the recommendation was going to be, and then something a little bit more substantial on the minutes that was sent out to all elementary certified staff. We know that part of this is going to require all certified staff to be knowledgeable and understand kind of what it is that they would be voting in favor of for when we get to ratification. But we felt like at this point, we really wanted to just kind of make sure that it had been effectively communicated to elementary staff.
Yeah, this is a tough time of year for administrators and classroom educators to not be in the building. So I appreciate your all's work during this time, and I think there's a lot of education for us secondary folk to better understand this, but this impacts us because we're getting these students. The program at the elementary, impacts what we do. So we appreciate you guys spending all that time on it.
A bit like a Jenga puzzle, like you have to fit PLCs in, but you also have to fit plan time, and when our our SIP meeting is going to be scheduled, it's complicated.
you go back one, I think one slide. So, no. Okay, yeah, sorry, back to that slide. My bad, I found it. The second to last bullet. I think I understand why the one time per typical 5-day week is there. 'Cause that refers back to the PLC. But just clarifying that that one time doesn't mean plan is one time per typical 5-day week. But that bullet means only one plan period could be 30-minute chunk could be moved to the before school time, before student contact time.
That was,
Okay.
a great discussion that a lot of us had, and was, could we use the 8:15 to potentially the 9:15 time for, some specialists or support staff and things like that to have their hour of plan. And the whole group kind of came to a consensus that the majority of plan time needs to fall within student contact time. Because that is a very, very long day, to just go straight through with the majority of that time not even having students in the building. So the goal is to keep that kind of 8:15 to 8:45 time, a 30-minute chunk. And then I know there's so many details to work out, but 8:45 is mentioned as like all staff on deck to help with supervision and things like that, to kind of protect and put that little bit of a barrier in there, for a 30-minute only chunk. Yeah.
The good news is, one of the things we know is that doors are gonna open at 8:35. And so everybody should have an opportunity to have some time for planning from 8:15 to 8:35 every single day. But that can't be considered planned time, because it's not a 30-minute chunk. That makes sense? The time for planning and then plan time.
It creates an opportunity, those, if it's you're thinking of a 5-day week, you have those other 4 times when potentially 8:15 to 8:35, you have, time to check in with your grade level team, or, run off that last set of copies, or if you're meeting with your coach later that day, then you have a gift of time in the morning. So it really is a great opportunity for staff.
I think that aligns with, if you don't have a student coming in to visit you at secondary before school,
That's your time.
that's the time we can run to the bathroom, get that coffee. I mean, I think that's that equity piece we talked about.
In high school world, our PLC is scheduled before school, and it's not a this or that, it's just that. I know some schools and some departments or whatever have got some creative solutions with supervisory periods to do different collaboration, but can you help me understand what the difference is between an elementary and a high school PLC, that you might not have recommended it that way for the elementary? That it would just be a PLC before school?
Before school or before contract? Before student contact?
I guess my question is on the 8:15 to 8:45. Can you speak to why that would not just be PLC for everyone versus this plan time or PLC? I don't understand why that flexibility perhaps.
That.
Sure.
Okay, so currently we're on an A through E rotation, right? And so most, I don't know if all, but most elementary buildings will have their PLC day all on the same day. And one of the reasons is so that the principal and sometimes the counselor is able to attend all of those PLC meetings throughout the course of the day. What's going on, what can we do to support, and so forth and so on. If we did that with an 8:15 to 8:45 time, then principals would essentially have to choose and just say, okay, I guess today, I'm just gonna, or this week I'll just go to third grade. This week I'll just go to our specialist PLC. What I'm envisioning, and this still has to get vetted out, but what I am kind of circulating around in my head is that if we were able to have a specialist PLC on the 8:15 to 8:45 time, where they could either meet together as a group or with those other individuals that are in that same content area, then we would be able to know that, okay, on, we'll say Tuesday, for example, that's going to be the PLC type of specialist, and so I need to make sure that I can try and get in there and see if there's anything I can do to support them during that. If we also wanted to have Tuesdays as when the grade level, kindergarten, first, second, third grade PLCs were taking place, then the administrator would be still able to attend each one of those because it's going to take place during the time that their kids are in their specials.
Okay, it sounds like the biggest difference is that, in the elementary world, that the principal is more often expecting that that's something that they're a part of.
Yes, I think so. Did I explain that okay, Leanne and Shelby?
Yeah, we talked about that. It's not always typical to have an administrator attend all the PLCs at middle.
Would be atypical.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I guess supervision's a little different at elementary, so if the doors open at 8:35, somebody's gotta be there.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes. We have to have eyes on kids. There's 10 minutes when the doors are open, but they're not released back to the classrooms yet at 8:45. And then, of course, we would need some supervision in the hallway. Questions? Or any recommendations, I guess? Anything else from professional counsel in general as far as what either the three of us as the chairs of the plan time subcommittee need to take on, or that the greater elementary plan time subcommittee needs to?
Where are we resolving the issues for those staff who are spending part of their time at all three levels?
That's a great question. I like that question.
That landed on the question for district administration.
Gotcha.
The schedules together.
I think one of the things that we'll want to consider is that potentially having the A through D rotation be only for specials, the art, music, library, and PE, and then pretty much everything else would potentially maybe fall into a Monday through Friday schedule. One of the things that we've had some discussions about, one of the things we take a look at, we want to be careful because we know that there are less Fridays than there are, say, Wednesdays and Tuesdays and those kind of things. It's not quite as significant as a number as I had thought that it was, but we would want to be careful. Like, for example, if we had our sit meeting day on Fridays, that probably would not be ideal.
Miss a lot of those.
Yeah. Additionally, I think most of our administrative staff meetings, I think, are intended to be on Tuesdays next year. And so that would be another consideration with administrators being expected to be at those SIT meetings and IEP meetings and such as that. So those are all things that that's in my mind, that's kind of the next step.
So is the next step, our team's taking a look at and getting feedback from all the people on what thoughts come from district administration and that on the proposal, and we can work on getting feedback from staff. And then come back together hopefully Monday with a what's next conversation, or are we crafting language by team and bringing it forward?
But I think, obviously, based off the recommendation of the committee, I think that's where bulk of the language would come from. So, both, both of us had members on the committee, and it sounds like came to a consensus there too, so.
Very much so.
Yeah. I'm just, you know, speaking out of turn, but obviously we had you there and both Dr. Smith and Dr. Harrison there, so I think obviously they were part of that, comfortable with that, obviously.
That we are in support as a council of the proposal.
Well, nobody thinks differently on, I'm speaking for a lot of people.
Clarity, say, Dr. Leanne will begin editing language and bring that forward.
Sounds great.
Besides like emails that I will get beginning now from people. I mean, I think we're happy to get feedback from staff or like, did you think of this? What about this question to add to the very long list of questions that we have so far from the committee? I think that it would be good to move some assurances forward for our staff. So. I think as we're working through the language, just thinking about as our specialists are teaching more classes in their content area, I'm anticipating there will be an impact on the amount of time amount of planned time beyond their ensured time where they can support the building in lots of ways that they support the building now with interventions and subbing. And so I don't know, those might be conversations we can add to the district administration list.
Yeah, there's still much work to be done, but
Yes.
we're chipping away on it.
This is a big rock,
Yeah.
if we're able to move forward with at least the A3D rotation, that piece had to be in place first before we can start to really get our minds wrapped around the other things.
There is currently we don't have another elementary plan time committee meeting scheduled, but we do know there is a task force meeting, which is not under the purview of this body, but on the
25th.
the 25th. So we don't know the agenda for that, but we do know that's happening.
Would it be appropriate to get our questions for district administration and maybe building administrators sent over to Jill and Liz? If they have other answers,
Yeah.
that might be where we can find them out.
Too, they were obviously on the time committee, so that continued collaboration and communication is a good thing.
Sounds good to me.
We have our standing Zooms.
You just need to have a standing meeting at 10 a.m. on Zoom.
That's
It's like we
right.
kind of have
Yeah.
recently, so just keep that going.
Yep.
Anything else for today? Our next meeting is not here. I
Just a reminder.
will invariably show up here and then drive over to the tech center.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one day this room. If you remember where we met last year, it was too far, when you walked in, far down.
Yes.
and Tech center on the right.
Before the very last.
Yes.
Yep.